Chalk dreams and Patches pause. The sun, still gentle in the morning, kissed the asphalt of the driveway, warming it just enough for Lily's bare feet. A rainbow of chalk sticks lay scattered beside her, casualties of her artistic frenzy. Blues bled into greens. Oranges clashed playfully with purples. The driveway was her canvas, and today's masterpiece was underway. A sprawling underwater scene, complete with grinning, bubble-blowing fish. Patches, a whirlwind of fluffy white fur and boundless energy, circled her, his tail a metronome gone wild. He'd nudge her hand with his wet nose, demanding attention, then leap back to chase imaginary butterflies flitting amongst the vibrant coral she'd drawn. "Careful, Patches. You'll smear Mr. Grumbles," Lily warned, giggling as the dog narrowly avoided trampling a particularly grumpy-looking pufferfish. Mr. Grumbles was her favorite. She'd given him extra bristly fins and an exaggerated frown. She added a few more shimmering scales to his side, enjoying the gritty feel of the chalk on the rough surface. The air smelled faintly of cut grass and the sweet, almost sugary scent of the new chalk. A robin chirped from the oak tree in the front yard. It sung a cheerful counterpoint to the rhythmic scratching of chalk on concrete. This was her happy place. The world outside the driveway, with its worries and demands, faded away. Here, it was just her, Patches, and a universe of color waiting to be born. A car rumbled to a stop nearby. Lily glanced up, shielding her eyes. A sleek, black sedan idled at the curb. Karen. Lily's stomach clenched. The woman always seemed to appear just when things were perfect, a dark cloud threatening to blot out the sun. Patches, sensing Lily's shift in mood, stopped his playful dance and sat beside her, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The grumpy neighbor appears. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows, painting the driveway in stripes of light and dark. Lily hummed, charcoal smudging her fingers as she meticulously rendered the intricate details of a gargoyle perched atop the neighboring roof. Lost in her art, she didn't hear the crunch of gravel until a shadow fell across her sketchbook. Well, a voice like sandpaper rasped. Lily looked up, squinting. Mrs. Davison, the neighborhood's self-appointed guardian of all things proper, stood with her arms crossed, a permanent frown etched into her face. Her floral dress, usually a source of amusement, now felt like a battle flag. "Having a little art session, are we?" Mrs. Davison sniffed, her gaze sweeping over the driveway. "On HOA property, no less." Lily blinked, her charcoal hovering over the page. "HOA property? This is my driveway. Don't be obtuse, dear. The first 6 feet from the curb is designated common ground. For landscaping, not artistic endeavors." Mrs. Davison's lip curled at the word artistic. Lily's stomach tightened. Common ground? She glanced at the perfectly manicured strip of grass bordering the driveway. It was barely wide enough for a dandelion, let alone a full-blown garden. I didn't know. Ignorance is no excuse. Rules are rules. I expect you to confine your activities to your own property from now on. Mrs. Davison tapped her foot, the sound sharp and brittle in the quiet afternoon. Or I'll have to report it to the board. The threat hung heavy in the air. Lily watched, speechless, as Mrs. Davison turned and marched back towards her house, her floral dress a retreating banner of disapproval. The gargoyle on the page suddenly seemed less menacing, less monstrous than the woman who had just disrupted its creation. Mom to the rescue. Lily's mom, a vision of calm in her floral dress, stepped onto the sizzling asphalt of the driveway. "Mrs. Davison," she began, her voice gentle but firm, "I understand your frustration, but this portion of the driveway is, in fact, on our property. We have the survey documents right here." She gestured toward the house, where Lily's dad stood nervously fiddling with the rolled-up deed. Mrs. Davison's face, already flushed from the summer heat, deepened to a furious crimson. "Nonsense. I've been parking here for years. It's practically HOA land, a communal courtesy." She planted her hands on her hips, her posture radiating defiance. A bead of sweat trickled down her temple. "We really wouldn't want to cause any trouble," Lily's mom continued, her voice unwavering. "But parking here obstructs our access. Perhaps we could find an alternative arrangement." "Alternative arrangement?" Mrs. Davison scoffed. "I'll tell you what the alternative arrangement is. I'm calling the HOA. They'll sort this out, and you'll be sorry you ever started this foolishness." She snatched her phone from her purse, her thumbs flying across the screen. Lily felt a knot tighten in her stomach. This wasn't going well. The air hung thick with the scent of impending doom and sun-baked asphalt. She could practically taste the metallic tang of anxiety on her tongue. Her mom's polite persistence seemed to be only fueling the fire. What if Mrs. Davison actually got the HOA involved? The deed is done, or is it? The thick, official-looking document felt heavy in Dad's hand. He'd retrieved the deed from the safety deposit box downtown, a triumphant gleam in his eye. "This," he announced, brandishing it like a sword as Mrs. Davison stood on the porch, arms crossed, "should settle the matter once and for all." Mrs. Davison peered at the deed through her thick glasses, her lips pursed tighter than a vacuum-sealed bag. The afternoon sun glinted off the gold lettering. "A piece of paper," she finally declared, her voice dripping with skepticism. "Anyone can print a piece of paper." Mom gasped. "It's a legally binding document. It has the county seal." She pointed to the embossed impression near the bottom. Mrs. Davison remained unmoved. "Seals can be faked. I've seen it on television. This doesn't prove a thing. The HOA documents are clear. Your driveway encroaches. The car was parked illegally." She punctuated each sentence with a sharp nod. Dad's face was turning a blotchy red. He unfolded the deed further, his fingers tracing the surveyor's markings. "It's all here, Mrs. Davison. Plat map, dimensions, everything. Look, the property line. I trust the HOA surveyor, not some document," she interrupted, her gaze shifting pointedly to Lily. "Some teenagers are good with computers. Photoshop, you know." Lily balled her fists. That was below the belt. Mom placed a hand on Dad's arm, a silent plea for restraint. The air hung thick with unspoken frustration, a simmering pot about to boil over. The deed, meant to be a definitive solution, now felt like just another piece of fuel tossed onto the fire. Shiny red roadblock. The cherry-red sedan nosed into my driveway like a defiant bull. Mrs. Davison, face pinched and eyes gleaming with righteous indignation, killed the engine. She didn't even bother to center it. The passenger side wheels were practically kissing the rose bushes. My stomach churned. This wasn't just a passive-aggressive note on the windshield anymore. This was war. I hurried down the porch steps, keys jangling in my hand. "Mrs. Davison, what do you think you're doing?" She emerged from the car, clutching a clipboard like a shield. "I'm exercising my rights, Lily. This area is clearly common ground. The HOA will see to it." "Common ground? I showed you the deed." My voice rose an octave. "I need to get my scooter out. Sam's waiting." I gestured towards the garage, the metal door a cruel reminder of my impending captivity. A playdate with Sam was the only good thing I had going this week. We were supposed to build a miniature golf course in his backyard. Mrs. Davison adjusted her spectacles, her gaze unwavering. "Perhaps you should consult the HOA bylaws. Article 7, subsection." She trailed off, pretending to search her clipboard. "Never mind. The point is, you're obstructing common access. I'll move my car when the HOA makes a ruling." A lump formed in my throat. I could practically taste the metallic tang of disappointment. No miniature golf. No Sam. Just the oppressive weight of Mrs. Davison's shiny red roadblock. Ignoring the plea, Lily watched from the living room window as her parents approached Mrs. Davison's silver sedan, parked squarely across their driveway apron. Dad gestured politely, a practiced calm radiating from him, while Mom stood slightly behind, arms crossed, her usual morning cheer replaced by a grim line around her mouth. They spoke for several minutes, Dad doing most of the talking. Lily couldn't hear the words, but she imagined him explaining, reasonably, logically, about property lines and rights of way. Mrs. Davison remained behind the wheel, face obscured by the tinted windshield. Then, with a dismissive flick of her wrist, Mrs. Davison waved them off. She killed the engine, opened the car door, and stepped out, a smug little smile playing on her lips. Without another word, she marched toward her front door, keys jangling, and disappeared inside. The slam of the door echoed in the sudden silence. Lily's dad stood for a moment, shoulders slumped, before turning back to Mom. They exchanged a look, a silent conversation passing between them. He ran a hand through his hair, a rare sign of frustration. Mom shook her head, a mixture of disbelief and anger flashing in her eyes. Lily felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She was powerless, trapped behind the glass, watching as Mrs. Davison brazenly disregarded their pleas, their rights, their sanity. The audacity of it stung. This wasn't just about a driveway anymore. It was about respect, about boundaries, about everything she'd been taught was right. And right now, right was losing. Calling for backup. Lily scrutinized her father's face, a rigid mask of resolve, as he snapped into the phone. "Correct. obstructing my access. Despite repeated requests, she refuses to budget. I require immediate towing services. A pause, his jaw clenching as he absorbed the response. Because of her insistence, it's common property. It is demonstrably not. He angled his body, a hushed aside to Lily. They want verification. Retrieving the house deed from his briefcase, he presented the tightly wound document. Lily's breath caught. A delicate bloom of optimism stirred within her. This felt proactive, decisive. A strident honk pierced the air. They've arrived, he announced, his tone edged with newfound steel. He marched outside, the deed firm in his grip. Lily trailed him, pausing on the threshold as a hefty figure in a safety vest emerged from a colossal tow truck. That's the offending vehicle, her father stated, gesturing towards Karen's gleaming, illegally stationed SUV. He unfurled the deed, the old parchment rustling softly in the wind. In this, he continued, offering it to the driver, irrefutably establishes my ownership of this land. The driver scrutinized the document, his weathered finger following the boundary lines. A slow nod. Understood, sir. Let's relocate this thing. The tow truck's hydraulic shrieked, a discordant yet hopeful melody filling the space. Lily felt a current of something unfamiliar in recent days, a true chance at prevailing. The tow truck's triumph. The reversing beep of the tow truck sliced through the afternoon quiet, a mechanical shriek announcing the cavalry's arrival. Lily gripped her father's hand, her knuckles white. Mrs. Davison's meticulously manicured lawn seemed to vibrate with the approaching behemoth. The tow truck, a scarred veteran painted a faded orange, lumbered to a halt. The driver, a burly man with a name tag that read, Earl, emerged, chewing gum with a rhythmic snap. He surveyed Mrs. Davison's gleaming sedan with professional detachment. All right, let's get this show on the road, Earl mumbled, producing a greasy chain from the truck's underbelly. He expertly maneuvered the hook towards the undercarriage of Mrs. Davison's car, the clanging of metal a jarring counterpoint to the birdsong. Suddenly, the front door of Mrs. Davison's house burst open. Mrs. Davison, her face a thundercloud, charged across the lawn, her floral dress billowing behind her. Stop. Stop right there, she shrieked, her voice cracking with outrage. You can't do this. This is my property. Lily's mother stepped forward, her voice surprisingly firm. Actually, Mrs. Davison, according to the deed, it's ours. And you're parked illegally. Earl paused, one hand resting on the tow chain. He looked from Mrs. Davison's apoplectic face to Lily's mother's unwavering gaze. The gum snapping slowed, almost imperceptible. Mrs. Davison pointed a trembling finger. I'll call the police. I'll sue. You haven't heard the last of this. Lily's father squeezed her hand. The chain tightened, lifting the front wheels of the sedan off the ground. Earl, with a shrug, climbed back into the cab. The engine roared to life, a powerful promise of retribution, rainbows and lessons learned. The tow truck's winch whined, a mechanical lament as it dragged Mrs. Davison's sedan up the ramp. Lily watched from her porch, patches of furry shadow pressed against her leg. Mrs. Davison stood by the curb, arms crossed, face a thundercloud of simmering rage. Two men in reflective vests secured the car. You haven't heard the last of this, you little brat. Mrs. Davison shrieked, her voice cracking. Lily didn't flinch. She simply held Patches tighter. The engine roared to life, and the tow truck lumbered away, Mrs. Davison's sputtering protests fading with it. The empty space where the car had been seemed enormous, a gaping hole in the fabric of the street. Lily felt a mixture of relief and a strange sort of sadness. It was over, but at what cost? Later, after her mom had come home and praised her for standing her ground, Lily took her sidewalk chalk outside. The gray expanse of the driveway beckoned. She chose the brightest colors, scarlet, gold, azure, emerald. Starting at the edge near the street, she began to draw a rainbow. Each arc was carefully placed, each color distinct, yet blending seamlessly into the next. Patches sat beside her, head tilted, watching with rapt attention. The chalk smelled dusty, like the end of summer. As she finished the violet arc, Lily realized the rainbow wasn't just a symbol of hope. It was a boundary, a vibrant declaration that this space was hers, and that respect, like the colors, had to blend together to create something beautiful.